Before I speak on a statement, I try to be informed. I try not to speak on things that I have not done my due diligence on by researching. That's why people are always perplexed when I'm in a conversation with them. They bring up a certain topic, and I explain to them that I don't know enough pertaining to that topic in order to have an informed opinion. If everybody thought likewise, people would either shut the hell up when they don't know what they're talking about, or they would do their research before they run their damn mouths. As a millennial, it is very difficult to get ahead. We are the first generation in American history that is going to have a lower standard of living as an overall group than the previous generation. A lot of people don't understand the cause. They focus on the symptoms of the problem rather than the root cause itself. A lot of people would say that it is capitalism which has led to the disproportionate living standards. I have to disagree with that. I think it is inflation. And let me explain to you my reason behind this. Back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 50s, whenever, basically my grandparents' generation, my dad's generation, who is now in his 60s, and before that, somebody could work, typically a man back in those days, could find a job working at a factory. My dad worked at Mattel, just to make this more succinct. Back in the late 90s, all the way until the early 2000s. And when my dad worked at Mattel, he took in enough money without a college degree in order to support 3 kids, in order to live in a home, in order to let his wife stay at home, and we got to go on vacations. Now, why is it impossible now for most millennials to be able to work 9 to 5? I don't mean that concise number, but I mean that time window to work 8 hours, because that's all my dad worked. My dad never worked overtime. He worked 8 hours. He worked 5 days a week. He had 2 days off. Now, why are millennials having to work more hours, taking in less money, not being able to afford rent, not being able to buy houses, not being able to have kids, not being able to afford vacations? What is the reason for that happening? Well, you have to look at dollar value. $11 in today's money is not the same as it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. In the year 2000, a dollar was worth $1.50 comparative to 2020. Just 10 years ago, it was worth $1.19. Since the dollar is being devalued, the question then becomes, what is causing the devaluation of the currency? Some people might say it's the population, but according to the U.S. Census, in the past decade, the population has declined. Common sense would tell you because more money is in circulation, more money is being printed, more money is in circulation, each dollar that has already been printed is going to lose value. In 2018, $1.7 trillion was printed out of thin air, adding that money to the money supply. Just last night, the Federal Reserve announced that it would cut interest rates to 0, which means it's easier for people to borrow money, print that funny money into the system, and they are launching a $700 billion quantitative easing program. Now, quantitative easing just means printing money, but they use those complex terms because they know the average person is not going to take time to look it up. Quantitative easing sounds a lot better than printing money. But you're adding $700 billion in one day out of thin air to the money supply. So far, we have had trillions of dollars, over $2 trillion, I don't know the number, but in repos. The central banks have just been getting this money out of nowhere. That's why the deficit matters. I love when people say, well, the deficit doesn't matter because we're screwed anyway. I'm just like, dude, you're uninformed. You have your right to be uninformed, but don't be running your mouth at me if you're uninformed. In 2021, the government will take in $3.863 trillion, and they will spend $4.829 trillion, which leaves a gap of $966 billion. That money will be added to the money supply. It will devalue the paychecks of every working American. That's why when people say, what do you think about this issue or that issue? I say the conversation's all wrong. And I don't feel like I can be a part of it intelligently. The most important thing, besides protection, is commerce, the ability to engage, the ability to buy, the ability to provide for your family. But when you're just printing money out of thin air, adding it to the money supply, if somebody makes $11 an hour, let's say, or $10 an hour, in 5 years, that $10 or $11 is going to not be worth as much because of the current system that we're in. The Fed printing money, the government running massive deficits, adding that money to the money supply. And that's why millennials can't afford rent, can't afford groceries, can't afford vacations, and have a lower standard of living. Because each dollar in circulation lowers the value of dollars already in circulation. And the amount of money that is in circulation today is not concurrent to the population, because the population has declined. People are mad at Trump, people are mad at the government, people are mad, and rightfully so. But if you're going to be mad, at least be mad at the people who are directly responsible. Every president since Bill Clinton has added more money to the money supply. Every president since then has added to the debt. So if you're going to be mad at Trump, which I am, for increasing the money supply, you got to be mad at Bush. You got to be mad at Obama. You've got to hold every president to the same standard. But that's why millennials are struggling, because of currency devaluation, printing money, quantitative easing.